Welcome back to Newsmaker Live with me, Kendall Burton. My guest tonight, Mary Francis, attorney and human rights advocate. We're speaking about the Prime Minister's address to the nation last night and the police force developments there. The United States announcing that it was barring local police officers from participating in any training activities or programs organized or financed by the United States government. Lines are open, so you can begin calling us at any point with your questions, your comments on the topic. Before we do that, Mr. Vernon Francois, the police commissioner, has been reacting to the Prime Minister's address last night, and we want to take a final clip from this evening's news, a report by Jason Hollandseed. He did that story. Let's take a look.
Police Commissioner Vernon Francois says he fully supports the idea of bringing investigators to look over what the Royal St. Lucia Police Force has done. Mr. Francois notes that the laws of St. Lucia are clear regarding what should happen in cases of loss of life. In the case of the police slayings, Mr. Francois believes that the laws have been followed, but nevertheless says that he welcomes investigators.
Obviously, it will validate our own investigation because I'm actually comfortable with the investigation which my officers have conducted in keeping with the law. I also think too that it should provide an opportunity for the people who may have some information relating to the 2011 incident so that they can come forward. They may not have been comfortable speaking to our local investigators, that they will be prepared to come forward to speak to the new investigators.
Asked whether he was ordered by the former administration to carry out Operation Restore Confidence, Mr. Francois had this to say.
I have throughout my career stay clear of politics, and I'm proposing to stay clear of politics really, in terms of partisan politics really. But I think I have been a very independent person in this job. I think in terms of determining the superintendents and management of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, that Royal St. Lucia Police Force, that has been my job, and I think I guard this job jealously. And both sides of the politics, both the administration that I worked with previously and the current administration, I think they know where I stand on matters relating to the management and leadership of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. So that is what I propose to say on that score. I think we have been very deliberate in our planning from within the police department.
The island's police commissioner says most steps taken to deal with the situations the police face and will continue to face have been based on decisions by his policy team. According to Mr. Francois, officers cherish the relationship with the United States. Nonetheless, Mr. Francois says there are other partners that can be engaged for training opportunities. The police chief notes, however, that for the sake of the police force and St. Lucia, there needs to be a speedy resolution of the situation facing the force. For the DBS News World, Jason Hollandseed reporting.
We'll get your reaction to those statements by the Police Commissioner Vernon Francois, but I do believe we have a caller. Do we?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
All right.
What's on your mind?
Good night.
Good night.
Whilst I appreciate the efforts of the police in trying to resolve matters that occur in St. Lucia in terms of the criminality, I find that the question of rogue cops are never addressed. And it is the rogue cops that we ought to be really concerned about, not the good cops. It is the rogue cops that cause St. Lucia to be in the position that they're in today. The reason why the Americans don't want the St. Lucian police officers to travel to the States is because of the status that we hold now in terms of not respecting the rule of law vis-a-vis the human rights of the citizens. Now, this has implications for judiciary, our lawyers, and everybody else. Nobody is addressing the issue of rogue cops. What do they do about the cops who engage in rogue behavior? Do they investigate substantially and suspend? Do they suspend with wages? Do they allow them to take the blame themselves even if they're acting, as they say, in the course of their duty. I mean, it's the rogue cops that caused the problem that we have today. It is not the good cops. What does Mr. Vernon Fossois do about the rogue cops? They are the ones who violate the constitutional rights of the persons. In St. Lucia, we have at least 16 to 18 constitutional rights that are constantly violated. We go to the courts, the AG's office, bringing up preliminary points. They're having cases thrown out when somebody has been shot and is dead, the family, and nobody cares. People just think you defend the state at any. The state cannot be defended at any cost. They have to pay if they've done something wrong. So must apply, and everybody must. And I think I'm right when I say that. The rule of law applies to me, you, Mary Francis, as an attorney. I'm also an attorney. You, the presenter of this program tonight, the police, and everybody else. Nobody should be favored over anybody else. It appears now that the state has a heavy hand over the people of St. Lucia who actually funds and runs the state. I think that is the major problem, dealing with the rogue cops who actually create the problem of the infringement of everybody's human right. For instance, the right not to be searched arbitrarily.
Mm-hmm.
A police officer will just see you on the street, doesn't like you, doesn't like the look of you, and all of a sudden is, come here, and then just put their hands all over you and deal with you like you're some kind of vagrant or you're some kind of criminal. Whether you're a criminal or not, at the time, if you're not engaged in criminal activity, that police officer has no right without reasonable suspicion. And reasonable suspicion cannot be a phone call from a neighbor who doesn't like you. He has to have some grounding. They have reasonable suspicion. They come, they put their hands over you, they search you, they arrest you, whether it's arrestable offense or not, and then they put you in the jail for 72 hours and release you. They don't even realize that they can be charged. They can be a suit can be filed against them for an unlawful arrest or unlawful detention. These things are the things that have to be brought to the public's attention so they can understand what's going on. Our Prime Minister is a constitutional lawyer, and he should know that he must put laws in place to guard the fundamental rights of the people of St. Lucia. So that is not being done. Everybody's bypassing and saying, well, America is this, America is that. America has a right to do what they did because in St. Lucia, the people appear not to have rights. We must apply the law as it must. Everybody, the state must be seen to be applying the law equally to everybody. If that's not happening, they're going to have anarchy. And I'm telling you, this is why St. Lucia is the way it is. Why you have so many criminals disrespecting, not obeying. There's a court order for him to do this. He doesn't care. He doesn't do it. He'll go to bodily. He doesn't care. This is why, because the heads of the state, the people involved in running the state, don't ensure that those laws that are enshrined in the Constitution are well protected.
Okay,
that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution.
You said it all. I think that is a familiar voice I recognize. And I agree there is too much of a very high level of impunity in St. Lucia. That is the problem. A level of impunity, not carrying out sanctions against the police who actually violated the law. And yes, there's a small number of them, but I think of late there's so many complaints and reports. You have a complaints unit. The complaints unit itself is overwhelmed with complaints on a daily basis. And in terms of actually sanctions, sometimes there is an internal hearing and all the police officer will get, maybe might lose 2 weeks' pay and that type of thing. You hardly hear of charges filed against the police officers. Now and again, you would find maybe then something will be brought to the court. But the problem is that there is too much a high level of impunity against those persons, police officers who violate the law. And the caller is very right. And then who do you blame for that? You also have to blame the authorities, the government and so forth, because they are hearing the complaints. And if the remedy is not being sought, if people are not getting justice, when they suffer at the hands of the police. Well, who has to ultimately share the blame for that? It falls on the back of the administration in terms of not providing remedies. And we have called for the longest while for an independent body to actually investigate complaints against the police, and that still has not been done. So there is a lot which still has to be done. Whilst the trend now is for community policing and trying to befriend the community and whatnot, in a sense, we are still saying that this community policing by itself will not be able to actually transform the relationship between the police and the community or bring about better policing when you still have a few members who were bent on abusing their power and doing those things which they are not supposed to do and which is actually not in keeping with the oath that they have sworn in our constitution. So I agree with the caller that there is to be a greater level of sanctions and dealing with the police who are actually act outside their profession.
Okay, I believe we have another caller on standby already. Good evening, caller. You on the air?
Yes, good night.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good night.
Okay, my question here tonight is this. We're talking about the so-called alleged extrajudicial killings, right? Oh, yeah, that's what the whole show, well, is centered around. But my thing is, how did this all started? I know Miss Mary is an advocate, a human rights advocate, but not a human rights lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to find out, was she instrumental in actually using whatever medium that she used to actually, get it out there to any of those American agencies?
Well, caller, we are living in a small world. There is the internet, there are all forms of technology. You have the news media, the local news, being broadcast over the world. So there are various ways and means in which the Americans or the U.S. Embassy or State Department can obtain the information.
Yeah, I'm aware, but I'm still asking you the question since you're on air, right? And you've been so vocal, and you said earlier on that you usually write the what's his name again? The Commissioner of Police, right? Concerning certain issues, and you don't get a response.
I said from
right?
time to time, especially in relation to the killings.
So have you done the same as well by maybe writing, whether using email or whatever, or making your voice be heard, right? Contacting one of those American agencies to actually get your point across? Because I know you've been very vocal from day one when those so-called alleged extrajudicial killings, right? So I wanted to know if you were one of those instrumental as well in getting the word out there.
Yeah, I think she's answered the question already, caller.
What's that?
I think she has already answered your question.
There was no cause for me to write any U.S. State Department.
There is no cause, you said.
Anybody.
So you admitted meeting today, you've never played any part whatsoever.
I said,
by alerting anybody
whatsoever. I said to you, there is the internet, there are ways and means of just getting the information.
I know you said so already.
Well, exactly.
I know you said so, but you see, there's so many questions from the police, right? You've been very forthcoming and very outspoken, saying that you need certain answers from them. How I am now asking certain questions, you, right? Because I want you to be forthcoming as well. The same way you in turn want them to be. So I'm just asking you.
I don't know if you were listening earlier. I said to you that from time to time, persons from the U.S. administration or the embassy would visit St. Lucia, as you all heard that they were in St. Lucia, and they always hold discussions with members of civil society.
Okay.
As well as they hold discussions with the commissioner, the Home Affairs Minister, the police, the magistrates, and so forth. That's how they are able to put information together, and that is a legitimate exercise.
Okay, so that means they'll take your views into consideration as well.
Yes, and other persons.
But were not inquests held concerning those killings?
You heard the Prime Minister, didn't you hear him say, as far as I'm concerned, I know about 4 inquests have been held for 4 of the killings. And I also said on the show that I don't have too much faith in those inquests. The transparency, the transparency and the manner in which it has been done. I have witnessed some of them, one or two. And in terms of the files, the length of time it takes from the killing in those killings, last 2011, the B45, 5. It took a whole year before the file could be sent from the police to the DPP. Then when it reached the DPP, it took another 4 months before it could go to the coroner. We have the Coroner's Act, which governs unnatural deaths. A death at the hands of the police is termed an unnatural death. and it requires the coroner to deal with those things as speedily as possible. It never anticipated this length of time. It even has provisions where the coroner can visit the dead body and so on. So it shows that these things have to be done swiftly, because if you have to visit the body and the person has to be buried, of course the viewing must take place in quick time. So we are not following the provisions of the Coroner's Act. They send the thing to the DPP. It stays there a length of time. Then they send it to the coroner and all this thing. And there was one case where they did find the officer guilty of, he was found the killing was unjustified. And I understood that this matter is being reopened. Reopened at the request of whom, I don't know. What are the reasons, what are the consequences for it? Although the law says yes, an inquest can be revisited, but what is behind that one? In the one case where they find the officer was, the verdict was that he was guilty of unlawful killing. That is the one that is being reopened. And I said to you that the inquest in terms of who selects the witnesses, the police are the ones basically who have committed the act. They are the ones giving evidence. There are not independent witnesses, and the lawyer should be there to assist in the whole process and so forth.
Point taken. But then again, since you said you don't trust it, so that means you could be one of those that maybe have gone that far, right, to contact those foreign agencies to state your case as well.
Okay, caller, thanks for your contribution. I think she has answered your question already. Yeah,
I don't think he was listening. I said I have written the Home Affairs Minister about reforming the Coroner's Act. I have showed him to me about those shortcuts. Even the post-mortem. I mean, the normal thing which happens at the post-mortem. If your family member has been killed by whatever means, or a victim of a criminal attack or whatever, and the post-mortem is conducted, you have a right to be there to see what is being done. However, when it is a police killing, family members are denied that right to actually be there and witness the post-mortem. That is the time they should be there. They term it a crime scene. It is a crime scene when it is the police and family members are not denied. They should be there to see what is going on. So these little things to me should be addressed. All I can say, the time has come that we have to learn lessons from this thing, and then the police should make sure that those things don't recur. The government, for its part, must be in control of those situations and keep an eye. The commissioner, I would say, to my mind, he had probably lost control of what was happening in 2011, because I can recall the Home Affairs Minister said he disbanded the task force because there was no accountability. What does that suggest? Well,
okay, we're due for another commercial break. Let's take that break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mary Francis, and we'll continue taking your calls. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS. We'll be right back.